Good morning and welcome to The Weekender.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Warren. I'm joined by Lloyd and Dave of Flames of War for the Win.
Good to be here.
Dave, it's fantastic to have you back. So myself and Dave have been filming the Flames of War for the Win, the second season, where this season, Dave, we're starting to look at some of the nuances of the game.
The weird little rules and how it all connects together.
And so far it's been so much fun. I've been enjoying it, and it's been really making me rethink about my army, and especially about the game. But more on that, because that season is due very shortly. Let's kick off with what we've been doing gaming-wise this week. Lloyd, we've been massively busy with terrain this week, and there's going to be a lot of terrain talk in this episode. But we did manage to squeeze in a little bit of gaming. So what did you do?
I've done nothing other than terrain and be cheated. Cheated by my sister, my own sister. Cheating, she'd say otherwise, in X-Wing.
In X-Wing?
Yeah, we were at the gaming club when I was playing X-Wing with her.
Yeah.
Now, I have Imperials. So I'm not really used to taking R2 units. So I was playing her, and I was getting my ass handed to me. I'm like, I don't understand this. I'm shooting her, and it's just bouncing off all over the place. Because every turn would end, and then she put her shields back on. No, she can only do one shield at a time.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there going,
Is this an R2 unit that allows her to do this?
She had 3 X-Wings, all with R2s.
Yeah.
And she's kept putting the shields back on. Every now and again I get through the shields and I get like 1 whole point of damage or something.
Yeah.
And then she'd put another shield back on, and then maybe another turn she'd be back up to her 2 shields.
Devastating.
And I was thinking, this is taking ages. This can't be right. And I should have trusted my instincts and walked over and read her R2 card.
Yeah.
Because I was watching a few of the guys afterwards play their game, which I'll get to in a minute. But I noticed that when they were playing it, they were only putting back a shield pointer, a shield counter, whenever they'd done an easy maneuver, which is green on the dial.
Yeah. So the whole thing with X-Wing is you have this dial, and you have neutral. You have green maneuvers, white maneuvers, and red maneuvers. Isn't that right?
Green
and
are
the green are easy. The white are kind of your normal.
Right.
And then the red are really difficult, like tight turns and stuff like that.
So basically, if you're doing a red maneuver, you don't have very much time to do anything else because you're doing something stressful.
Right.
It takes a lot of focus to do it. If you're doing something green, you've got time to press some buttons or something.
I understand.
Just meandering along.
Yeah.
If you're in the white mode, you're pretty active, but you're not too stressed.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all the new big ships and stuff like that that's coming into X-Wing? Are you looking forward to trying
I could tell in a minute. Let's talk about Hannah doing me out of my victory.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not even with epic moments. We were talking about epic moments. I couldn't get an epic moment because the shields kept going back up. So I was watching other guys play it, and then it suddenly dawned on me, hold on a minute, they're only regenerating shields every time they do a green maneuver.
Right.
I was thinking, now, my sister regenerated a shield every turn. There's no way she went through that entire game and just did green maneuvers, because I've seen her doing backflips and all sorts of stuff. So she was stressing herself, yet still the shields were coming back. And I felt gutted. I was like, I've been cheated out of my game.
That's no good, is it?
Well,
as for big ships, though, getting back to your point on that, I'm not very good at using the Millennium Falcon, it turns out.
Right.
Because I tend to fly it around all over the place. And I sat down beside these guys and watched, and he'd fly it 1 forward, 1 forward.
Yes, it just...
I see, right.
Whereas, are you doing big sweeps?
I'm doing the cinematic, all over the place, which you don't really need to do because it has 360-degree arc of fire.
Oh, because the turret's on the top.
So you just need to move along. And because he's moving along slowly, he wasn't getting stressed or anything because he had the... I can't remember the name of it. It's like the hawk-looking ship that you get.
Yeah. The one from the video game.
Yes.
Is that a headhunter?
Yeah. It could be the headhunter, yeah.
Can't remember.
Don't know.
Should have looked at it at the time, but he had this other ship and he had upgraded it with a card.
Yeah.
Right? So every turn that ship was gathering up more and more force power, basically. And he could share it with the Millennium Falcon.
This is beautiful. There's synergies there. You know, it's well, we've been discussing synergies a lot, and you'll see it in Flames of War.
So the big ships come into their own, even the little ships. Once you start using your decks right.
Yeah.
I haven't been reading my decks. After watching them play and all the cards laid out to do all the little upgrades and stuff, and they were saying, yeah, you can use Chewie as a pilot, but don't do that. He's great as a pilot, but don't do that. He's better as a crew member because he can repair stuff and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I was sitting thinking, right, I need to go home
and really get to grips with it.
I need to stop half-assing playing this
Yes.
game and start reading these cards, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to thrash her. With epic moments.
With epic moments, yeah. Well, myself, Dave, and Justin got in a little game of Dead Zone. So we did. And we'll probably talk about it. Justin didn't make it on the show this week. He's preparing for the arrival of the mighty Ramah, who's coming in to do a week's worth of painting and stuff like that. Ooh. So Justin is preparing for all of that. But I'm going to save it. We had a great time. You know, we were playing on the Dead Zone terrain and stuff, and it was all pretty epic.
It was good.
But we did have a moment. We had a moment where there was quite an interesting debate between myself and Justin on this.
Intense.
Where it was simply my very first proper true line of sight argument, where true line of sight broke down for me.
This is where I was sitting at the other side of the hall, looking over, going, what them fools up to over there? What is this argument they're having about?
Yeah. To be fair now, I've got to admit, I was winding them up. I was stirring the pot a little bit. But regardless of the fact that I was using it as an opportunity to stir him up a bit, it was actually a very interesting true line of sight breakdown for me, because anybody that has been watching will know I'm a big proponent of true line of sight. Anything that gets you down at the miniature's eye view, I think, is a great thing. However, when you have a model that is modeled in such a way that if it ever interacts with terrain, it's never going to see anything.
Yes.
Then suddenly, this is all about a sniper.
A crouching sniper.
A crouching sniper. But the difficulty is, the crouching sniper is not particularly compatible with the terrain, and any time he moves in and out of the terrain, he can't see anything.
What ends up like, is he like this, and the terrain is there?
Yeah, the terrain is there.
Crouching tiger, hidden model. Yeah.
So so Justin took a very rules as written kind of approach that its eyes can't see anything, therefore it can't do anything. Whereas I was taking a more liberal approach, to be fair, a much more liberal approach. I'm always erring on the side of epic. And I was saying, yeah, but Justin, you know, if I'd known you were going to be like that, I would have deployed him on top of a box or something, you know.
Well, what you could have done is you could have, had you any dead miniatures at the time, you could have like lifted one of your miniatures.
Just stuck a dead miniature on it.
And just, swap them out, put the other guy down who's standing up and say, look, when he stands up, this guy can see.
Yes, but it doesn't matter, as is written in the rule book, as is written by Jake Thornton himself, because we did go over it a couple of times. And to be fair, by the letter of the law, Justin's absolutely correct on this. But we'll have a debate about that in the next episode when Justin's on, because it's an interesting one. It's the first time where I felt that true line of sight has kind of broken down for me. Now I know some people do find it breaks down for them quite a lot. Me, typically it doesn't break down for me. I think it normally works fine. But then I'm probably a bit more liberal with it than some other people, you know, in so much as I would, whenever I'm looking at a miniature, I never really see in my mind's eye a stationary miniature. I always see a miniature that's
in motion.
You know.
Infinity would be prone to that. The reason I'm saying Infinity would be prone to that is because they do a lot of models where they're actually bounding over terrain and stuff.
Yeah.
They're in strange positions.
They're higher and lower.
And crouched behind a wall. So, I mean, you would sit there and say, right, that guy's crouched behind a wall. How does he ever see anything?
Yeah. Well, this is it. It's an interesting one. The other big one that... Sorry, Dave.
So I was just say about why I never played Dead Zone before. So it was an introduction to me. And all I just like Teratons now.
You're a big fan of Teratons.
I used it once, and it was jumping all over the place. I was like, I just want an army of them. You know?
Teratons have the ability to teleport. So they kind of teleport through walls and stuff like that.
And they don't need to see where they end up.
Yeah.
So I just bouncing it all over the place.
It's a great game. And if just that one thing was the only thing that threw us, because everything else operated as smooth as can be.
I've not played it before. And by the end of it, I was doing it on my own. You know,
we knew exactly what we were at. One of the things that did crop up, and it's something I'm looking now at the possibility of us having a look at on Beasts of War, is 7TV.
7TV. No,
7TV.
You guys started talking to me, or we were just before the show. They were talking about 7TV, and I looked at Dave and I went, perfect for Dave.
Yes.
It is. It's 7TV, in case you haven't noticed it. It's by Crook Dice. And it is It's the miniatures game that recreates all of the classic 80s TV shows.
Isn't there 70s in there too?
70s it goes to
70s,
Danger
80s,
Man, you got the Saint running around, you got Austin Powers.
If you ever wanted a miniatures game of Space 1999, 7TV is the way to recreate that.
Probably not the best ever, but if you want a miniatures game with just me running around...
Yeah. 7TV is
7TV is the way to do
play
it. Definitely.
Dave.
See, I picture you as an evil person in 7TV.
Oh, yes, I've got my minions.
Well, no offence, Dave, but I look at you and I think, yeah, he'd make a good evil character.
He would make a good
I've got
evil
the British
character.
accent and I know how to dominate the world.
Well, what I want to do in 7TV is I want to build a cool spaceport, okay? And you used to find Revell Apollo rockets, right?
Yes.
And they must be this size.
That would be really good, and that's really pulpy.
Okay?
Yeah.
But what I want to do is I want to get Apollo rocket, I want to paint it silver. So it's a big silver rocket of doom that would fit one occupant.
Yeah.
The Dr. Evil occupant. And I want to build this game around this. And I'm also going to see if I can get a small mini smoke machine and put it in the rocket that the rocket is kind of letting out.
So you have a launch scenario, and your evil doctor's trying to get to the rocket. You're trying to stop him, and his minions are getting in your way.
Yep. So if you're Crook Dice, or you're part of Crook Dice, and we know you guys because we see you at Salute every year, prepare yourselves because we might be getting in touch because I'm in the mood for some wacky 80s ultra spy type stuff, and I think that's the way to do it. Right. The bulk of this week has been taken up with terrain. Yeah. We started preparing terrain, Dave, before your arrival. We prepared our winter board. Yes. We'll get a picture of that up for you to have a look at. Now, we were speaking about this in the last episode, and by that stage we had got to the point where we had put down our first layer of snow, and it had gone a little bit yellow. Now, at the time, we put that down to the fact that it was...
cheaper mix?
It was a cheaper kind of sprackle or polyfiller that we used in it. And we don't think that was bleached enough. I have had a look at polyfiller, and indeed, polyfiller is a good bit whiter than the stuff that we got, which was kind of more of an off-white or a grey. But it does take the spray quite well. So if you want to lighten it...
once it dried out, it didn't look as yellow to me.
It did lighten when it dried out. The other problem was, in the space where we were working on it, the light in there is actually very yellow.
Oh, I see. So you was picking up the lights from...
So, and this particular material will absorb the light more than the polystyrene. So the polystyrene is much more reflective, so it will look whiter than this stuff, which will absorb the light. This was more diffuse. Yes.
Which means it bounced more of that yellow back at our eyes.
So basically, the bottom line is that the snow is slightly off-white. If you want it to be a brilliant white, it'll take a white primer, no problem, and you just dust that over the top of the whole thing, and you'll get it white.
Dust it, otherwise you'll end up with hot spots.
The interesting thing for us was it still worked quite well for us. We only dusted it very slightly in places. Having it slightly off-white actually worked better for us because we have a lot of studio lights. Oh, and the studio lights in here are quite a cool temperature, so it worked well and it didn't blow out on camera.
Because when it's really white and the light all hits it and it goes into the lens, it just whitens right out.
You end up with this
and then
white
you try to darken that down and everything around it ends up too dark.
Right, okay, yes.
So it was great. Our little trees worked really well. And then we posted up a thing on Facebook, and that was the picture, a close-up picture of the frozen river. Okay,
the highlight, I think.
Now, we're going to be embarking on a new series for Backstage, which is called Hobby Lab. And Hobby Lab is looking at all these kind of little techniques and things and showing you these techniques. So we have a lot of little Hobby Lab things that we're going to be filming in the coming weeks. So if you fancy getting in on that and seeing how a lot of this stuff's done, hook up on Backstage and get involved in the Hobby Lab. And if you've any questions, queries, suggestions, make sure and post them and let us know. But I did post up this frozen kind of river, and it worked beautifully. And I asked the people, can you guess how we did it? And I'm going to give you an indication of how we did it, but we're going to show you exactly how we did it.
It was really easy. We just filled it with water and put it outside. Cause it was freezing.
Yeah, it was freezing. We just filled it up with water, put it outside, and that was that. Done.
Done.
No, it wasn't quite like that. It's actually made with wax. So it is. Now, there are techniques that you have to... It took us quite a bit of experimentation with the wax to find the process that we needed. So I'm going to go into detail on that on Hobby Lab.
Yeah, all I'll say is the funny thing is, it was the first thing we tried was the best.
No, it always is, isn't it?
And then we thought, oh, that's quite good, and then we'll try all these other different things.
Expand on that idea. And then, yeah.
Well, we tried maybe 10 different experiments, and I actually tried 2 experiments before Lloyd even came in. So what you saw wasn't even the first attempt.
You were in the garage experimenting.
There was other experiments taking place before that, because wax as a medium actually has quite a lot of interesting properties, and how you work with the wax will actually change the effect of the wax that you have. So it was made using wax. There's that pop quiz. And if you want to know the exact details, hook up into Backstage. We're going to do a Hobby Lab specifically on this and show you, take you step by step through it and show you the tweaks and stuff that we made to make it work.
Yep, so if anybody's fond of their candles and they're living with somebody who's doing a war game, protect your tea lights!
Hide your tea lights, ladies and gentlemen. Hide your tea lights, because if you don't, they're going to end up on gaming boards all over the world.
And try not to use those scented candles either.
So that was the snowboard. The next thing that we had to do was the La Rochelle board. Why is it La Rochelle? Because whenever I studied France in high school, that was the only town I knew was La Rochelle. And David's going, yeah, but it's Normandy. And I said, La Rochelle. So, as with the snowboard, we wanted to make it. We wanted to try and come up with ways of creating a rural countryside that we could rescale. Now, what you see here is the same stuff as what we've shown you on screen there for Flames of War, but this is it rescaled for bolt action, because we're doing a little bit of bolt action, and we're going to be talking about bolt action at length in XLBS this week, so that goes out tomorrow on Sunday. But what we did was we wanted to make sure that whatever we created, we could do large layouts quickly that could be taken apart or reshaped or whatever, because again, this storage issue is a big one for us now. We can't really have boards that are completely laid out and have to be stored like this anymore.
The other good thing is the way this has been done, you can turn up at your local game club with a bag full of this stuff and find their grass board and go, conversion, half an hour to an hour later, you've set up your table and you're ready to go. Something like that. Now,
some of you might balk at the idea of spending an hour setting up a gaming table, but believe me, it's worth taking the time to do it.
It's worth it when I'm trying to figure out a way of taking this home with me. Because this is so... I was like, well, this is so cool. I want this in my house.
You've got time, because we turn up at the game club about 6:30 or so, and then other people don't turn up till maybe 7, 7:30.
You've got
that time to do a bit of setup.
Yep.
So all of this is all very transportable. Lloyd, do you want to take us through a couple of the materials that you used to build this? Again, in Hobby Lab, we're actually going to show you how we built these things, but Lloyd will show you some of the materials that we used to make it.
Let's extract a couple of those out while I show off. Move them in, and then we can lift them up.
Okay, so let's move these guys out of the way.
The other things behind us. So I'll start off with the other one.
So we have these cornfields. Now, normally, for cornfields, people will use straw doormats.
Yes, but I was looking at it. We were going through B&Q, and I thought straw doormats is cool and all, but I have a better use for them.
Yeah.
All right. So what I spotted was this sort of carpet tile.
Yep. Now it's a carpet tile with a very specific kind of what would you call that? A weave
that looks like it's sort of what is it? Tractor tires, or what causes that sort of liney looking?
Furrows.
Furrows, they're called. Yeah.
So what we're looking at here is the classic natural carpet tile in straw colour.
In straw colour.
And that's B&Q brand if you're looking for this.
So if you pick up carpet tiles, look for ones that would have a kind of a texture of furrow already kind of in them.
And that turned out like this.
So once all the different bits and pieces were applied to it,
I like that.
it comes out perfect.
Now you might look out and go, it's not very high for straw, but this is straw that's been
Cut back and
This is
ready
after
to go.
the straw's been cut.
Yeah.
Thrashed, isn't it?
Threshed.
Threshed. That's the word.
Yeah. So that's that. Now you did all sorts of kind of shapes, and you know that's a big long field there. But we've done
that's what it's
angular
like.
ones, and
That's what it's like after it's been treated with weathering sprays and stuff from Model Mates.
yeah. There's a few techniques to that. We also again brought out the trusty heat gun, but you've got to be careful with that, and that's another disclaimer we're going to have to put into this Hobby Lab series. That some of the stuff that we do in Hobby Lab is for nutters.
Yeah. Watch out for a video and you can see exactly how it's done.
Or you might have to end up meeting me, less.
Yeah, meeting Dave in his theatre
In
of
my
operations.
theatre, yes.
You have the other one, which is the kind of the ploughed field.
Now this is the one that transforms quite a lot.
I like this one.
This doesn't look like a ploughed field at all. So the mat that we have for this was the B&Q Classic Natural Hickory.
Hickory, yep.
So that's what it looks like. And then that becomes this.
Which is such a transformation, isn't it?
It's epic looking, isn't it?
Yeah, that one is really ploughed.
And the other thing I
turned
did
over.
was I made sure when we were cutting them, we cut reasonable sizes. Because
Yes.
it really winds me up seeing tanks sitting in fields that are only just
Big enough
Bigger
to
than
hold
the
the
tank.
tank. Yeah. So there's lots of sizes, and some sizes scale up. So what we had is on the Flames of War layout, we used lots of kind of smaller ones. And then when we came to redress for some bolt action stuff that myself and Dave were looking at today, earlier on, we swapped out some of the smaller ones for some of the actual larger layouts, and it just works beautifully. The smaller ones would work fine too, because any of you Americans are probably watching this going, but fields where we come from are like 4 million miles square. Yeah, that is what happens where you are. But in Europe, in this time period, or in kind of the more rural setting, the fields are kind of smaller and they've all these hedgerows.
Especially in the bocage of Normandy, they're row upon row of small, tiny fields, but they're fairly large.
But if you need bigger ones, just put them together into bigger fields. You know?
It's modular.
Especially
Basically, what we created was a kind of like a field construction set.
Yeah.
And then one of the best bits of the whole thing then was the hedgerows, because the thing that really makes the field stand out is whenever you can surround everything by the hedgerows. The hedgerows is what gives you the shape of the town or the village that you're trying to model. So do you want to show us what you used to create the hedgerows?
Here's what we end up with.
Nice and bendy.
Flexi.
Yep.
Which is great for packing it.
Yeah.
And you will see on quite a lot of tables this sort of mat being used for straw fields.
Yes, I've played on gaming tables that have had that as straw fields. Yeah.
That's a
But
big one, that is.
I looked at it and I looked at the height of it from a cross-sectional point of view, and I thought, if we cut that into strips, that'll give us hedgerows.
Yes, and it gives us
that's what we
hedgerows
did.
that scale lovely. At 15 mil, it looks like large hedgerows.
yeah,
But at 28 mil, it's just like your standard garden type hedgerow.
Well, no, it's even bigger. It looks like the sort of hedgerows you get in the countryside, because we were looking at it earlier. They come up to about here on a man,
Yeah.
and they're quite wide as well, which makes them quite big. And it's great. And then what I was saying is about it being transportable is, look how flat that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a gaming bag, so you've got your army in one bag, and you've got your table in the other bag, because these are flexi. You just throw them in a
Roll them
backpack
up.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and just pop them out. And then just change the scale, like Warren says, with trees and stuff.
Well,
The trees are the
secret.
key.
Yeah, the trees and buildings are the secret.
Yeah.
All of this stuff here is the bulk work. What we're trying to create, what we're trying to understand, is create the bulk construction set to allow us to lay out the entire layout, and then whenever we come to scale it, all we're doing is swapping out the trees and swapping out the major buildings.
Because it gives the illusion, doesn't it, of scaling up without having to do much.
So the hedges we made in all sorts of different lengths.
Yeah.
Now you just you use like a construction set.
Yeah.
Just, I'll have a little bit of this. I've got a hole that's about this size, and it goes.
Yeah. And it's the kind of stuff that you can cut and work with as well. So it's again, I think it'll make a very interesting video just to show that off and to show the different types of hedgerow that can be made from the same material. It's and hedgerows to match different kind of types of table. Because one of the things we'll be going to show you is how we used a similar technique to create hedgerows for the winterboard. So even the winterboard itself starts to have hedgerows and things like that on it. So
less green.
Massively flexible material. Very, very impressed with it. And I'm very, very pleased with the look of the tables that we've been able to create. But just as importantly, and maybe more importantly these days, the fact that we can condense it all down and store it in one of the drawers here and keep it out of the way.
Then it's all really playable too.
Yes. Yes.
We were house ruling. Yeah. We were saying that the threshed cornfields were just like regular fields, and that the ploughed fields, the muddy ones, were the hard,
dangerously ones.
Yeah.
Because you want a lot of different fields. You want to mix it and match it up. You don't. What I don't like is coming to a table and it's all green and one real brown field right in the middle of it. Yeah. You just think it looks a bit stupid. I understand.
One of the things we put it up on Facebook, and one of the commenters said, "Oh, it looks nice, but that would be horrendous to play on because too many bogging checks for tanks and stuff like that." Yes and no. Yes, if you want to play that way, that's fine. But any game of Flames of War I've ever played, you go through it with your opponent beforehand, and you work out what everything is.
What is this? What is that?
Yeah. For example, in this scenario, we only have 2-3 fields where a tank could bog down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest you just drive through them because we've decided that.
Well, it's more the hedgerows. Do you bog down at each of the hedgerows? And do you know what? You could turn around and say, well, yeah, you take a bogging test, but you know what? Well, to make it easier, you get to re-roll every bogging test.
You get twice
to give you the opportunity to
get through
it. So there are ways and means. You might say, but that's changing the rules. Yeah, but so what?
Yeah.
It's about making a game interesting and fun. And
I'm totally on the same level with you. I don't think a game's rules should be enforced to the point where you're playing on a big empty space with a field here and a field there.
As well,
and you're going, what? So a field just popped out of nowhere there and popped up, and there's nothing
in between.
Grass in between.
Yeah.
Just house rule it.
Well, this is it. It's this is all part of a campaign that we're building up to called the Epic Moments campaign. That for us, gaming is all about those epic moments. It doesn't matter who wins; it's the journey that is more important. And terrain, we see that as one of the most important things of our hobby. It's like we can all paint our armies and spend loads of time on it. We want to show you ways of creating epic gaming tables that used 11 pounds of materials.
That's the key here, isn't it?
Okay? Our thoughts on this were, well, how do we create this and how do we create it on a budget that allows us to do a lot of it and, not break the bank? So using literally maybe 15 pounds of materials if you include some of the paints and things like that, we were able to create a construction set that's been big enough, I would say, to probably do certainly a good 6x4 table very, very densely. You could maybe do 2 slightly less dense, but you will, for £11, most people will have enough to do a really good gaming table.
We bought 2 mats for hedgerows.
Yeah. Basically, we found that one each of the yellow carpet tile, the brown carpet tile, plus one of the actual hedgerows, straw mat things was enough to create one complete set.
It's pretty much what you see here. Because when you add these bits up, they become one of those tiles. And when you add those 3 bits, the dark brown,
you have the guts of another tile. And then these bits all go on. And in future episodes, I'm going to take you through some of the options for making making kind of deployable roads and stuff like that. Because if you reach behind you in the drawer there, Lloyd, the actual road surface itself in that drawer straight across from you, even the very roads had the ability to be packed away, and our roads simply roll out. So we'll go over. It's quite an easy technique. It uses basically the sandpaper from a belt sander, and then we basically use a series of sprays and weathering techniques on it. But it allows us to then, whenever we're finished, roll up the roads, put them away, and bring them out just when we need them.
You'll look at it and go, that's far too wide for Flames of War.
Oh,
right? But it's not.
It's not.
Because of the way we did the hedges. You lift the hedges up.
We can rescale it.
So for bolt action, the hedges are on either side. And then when we're doing Flames of War, we lift the hedge and actually put them on the road and that shrinks it down.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It was a perfect solution. You know, we've built a construction set that we can rescale for 15 mil, 28 mil. That's probably the two biggest represented scales in the market at the moment. And you just through the differences in the layout and how you put it together, you can completely change it.
Normally I'm a guy who loves a table that's purpose built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we did a really good job on this because I've been looking at it, I'm getting the vibe of the purpose built table.
Yes.
Even though it's modular, which is great because then we've got a game of bolt action laid out here. Next time we play it, there's no road.
No.
Next time we play it, there's 2 roads.
Yep.
Maybe the time after that, there's no brown fields.
Yeah.
So there's no bogging.
Yep.
It's been the way we've always been. You know, myself and Lloyd have always been really into top end kind of gaming tables and terrain, but now, you know, we don't have the space to store them all. You know, what we'll probably do is we're going to look at maybe selling off some of the tables or donating some of the tables and things like that we've built, because we can only keep them for a certain length of time before we'll have to build something else to freshen it up. But things like this are ideal.
Yeah.
You know, it's this kind of stuff. Certainly, looking at it, you know, you could put a green grass mat out. And I reckon if we came with our box of kit, our box of this stuff, you could set a green grass mat out anywhere, and we could turn it into something pretty epic looking.
Yeah, like I said, in an hour.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, guys, that about wraps it up. This man has got flights to catch, and we've got stuff to talk about in XLBS. We're going to be talking about bolt action. I'm going to be talking about some cool stuff in bolt action, and we're also going to talk about how we've mashed up bolt action rules with 40k.
Yes.
He's played it. We're going to quiz him on it because it's the coolest thing ever. So if you're interested in that and you're interested in bolt action, and I highly suggest you watch this episode of XLBS because it is such an epic game. And if you're a 40k player, you want to catch this. You really do. Right. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and watch and banter with us again on another episode.
Cheers, Dave, as well.
That's all right.
This man has been legend. Dave, we will have to get you back across very, very shortly.
Always a pleasure. Folks,
thank you. Join us tomorrow, that's Sunday morning, for the Weekender XLBS. It's for Backstagers. Backstagers are the group of people that pay the small monthly subscription that helps us keep the lights on here at Beasts of War. They are the living, beating heart and blood of the Beasts of War team and community. And if you want to help us keep this all rolling and steamrolling, that's by far the best way to do it.
We need a clapper for this bit, because then we could turn around and say, this is what it'd be like without the lights.
Yeah. So, folks, thanks for watching. We hope to see as many of you as possible in the XLBS tomorrow. Take care.